All right, so let's review Wolfman, Dave. Leigh Whannell directed this one. His previous work as a director includes The Invisible Man, 2020. I know you're quite high on that one. Insidious Chapter 3. This is his directing work. And he also wrote the first three Saw movies. The Mule, not the Clint Eastwood one, as you just pointed out to me.
Luckily, before we started recording.
It's the 2014 Australian version of The Mule.
Don't forget Upgrade, 2018, that he directed. That was great.
Yeah, Upgrade, and he also wrote Invisible Man, so he's quite a well-established person in and Universal. It's very much in the vein of the Universal Monster series, and they're kind of bringing back this idea after the Invisible Man. It's rekindled their love for the classic monsters. So we've got the Wolfman remake from this is a remake basically of 1941 film, very different, but under the same name.
Yeah, so this I think this is like a kind of like the dregs of the Dark Universe they were trying to do a few years ago.
Yeah.
They were trying to do it like a MCU style connected universe with all these Universal monsters. And I'm not really sure what came of it. I think like Dracula Untold was in it, and maybe a few others. I don't know. It died a death very quickly anyway. But at that point, I think Leigh Whannell had signed on to do Invisible Man. And I think because that universe imploded, he was able to just basically make it like disconnected from anything and make it as weird as he wanted. And I love that film. And I thought
it's a really good one.
A really creative like direction to take that concept in, the 21st century.
Definitely. It's so very different from the original, but it is almost actually unconnected to that original one.
It's I mean, I thought it was very clever, and as a result, I was very much looking forward to Wolfman.
Do you think it lives up then? So, do you think Wolfman lives up to how well and directed and written Invisible Man was?
No, not remotely. I do like it. I just I will talk about some of the stuff that we liked. I'm sure in a little bit. I don't think that the kind of bringing the Wolfman to the 21st century worked quite as well as bringing the Invisible Man did. I don't think the angle was quite as clever. It was very, very, very obvious like what the allegory was. And I got no problem with that. And I also don't particularly mind films wearing their themes on their sleeve. We probably could have had a bit more credit possibly, but we would have probably got what it was talking about with a few less clues.
Yeah.
So I don't think that allegory worked quite as well as the one in Invisible Man overall. I did like the Wolfman itself. Like it went a little bit against the grain with the depiction, in werewolves in media. I liked like the wolf vision and that kind of thing as well, and there was more of an infection. Some of the performances were good. Some were a bit wooden. I guess we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see who you think maybe wouldn't. Actually, that would be quite an interesting one. Because
maybe
I'm not sure I found many of them wooden, but I just found the film a bit middle of the road. As you know, I'm not exactly the biggest monster horror fan in the world, so it already gets a little bit of a downgrade for me for that. But I thought they did a stellar job. I didn't mind it, but the issue is for me is that opening part in the wood where it's the young Blake Lovell. So Blake Lovell played by Christopher Abbott through the majority of the film, but there's a young Blake with his father in the early parts of the film, and they live out in the middle of nowhere. And for me, that was the strongest part of the film.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree completely. In fact, I'm sure you probably thought this as well. If anything, if we could have just extended that to a feature length,
definitely.
Just drop us in, keep it almost real time, you know what I mean? Just let them, get stuck out there and go through the night or something.
Yeah, but it almost becomes a bit Blair Witchy in that respect if it just stays there. And it is quite shocking when they immediately then go to New York, because I thought this film was all going to be out in the sticks in the middle of nowhere. And it's in a way, it's quite jarring with the rest of the film, the New York scene. But I get the reason they did it.
I was quite excited by that, actually. I was a bit disappointed they didn't stick with the opening scene for the whole film, as I say. But when it did jump cut to New York, I was like, okay, cool. Now, again, thinking back to Invisible Man, I'm like, okay, so how are they going to make the Wolfman relevant and modern? How is New York going to play into Wolfman?
Yeah.
Are they going to bring Wolfman to New York? Like an American Werewolf in London, in New York?
Yeah. That would have been quite interesting. I find that Wolfman 2, perhaps. That could be.
But yeah, I agree with you that the opening sequence with his father was the strongest. And it set up like the whole theme of like generational trauma and like the
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say the sins of the father exactly, but like the damage that a father can do being overprotective. I think that's set up well in the opening, and then it's very quickly in the New York scene. It's reinforced right.
Yeah,
because it's 20 years later, and then he's grown up and he's doing basically exactly the same thing to his own daughter. I thought that was quite an efficient way of setting that up. I just think that the rest of the film kind of hammers that home.
It does it quite
much.
obviously, doesn't it? At one point, there's a really obvious scene with that.
Yeah.
Did you like the design? Before we go into spoilers, did you like the design of the monster?
Yes, I did. I know that some people didn't, but I really liked it.
What was it about it?
I liked that it was more humanoid, less wolf, more man. That really worked for me. I think the inspiration for the Cronenberg fly from the 80s is very obvious. As you go through like the stages of the wolf's transformation, very, very similar to fly.
When researching this, I did see that of Wolfman. They actually when I made them watch The Fly and other these sort of films like that. And their off time, and they would watch this before they filmed it, and then in post.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah,
but for me, that really appeals to my taste. I love body horror films, and I especially love The Fly. So actually, like the design of the creature was one of my favorite parts. How did you like it then? If you're not a big monster fan, did you like it being a bit more kind of human-y?
Yeah, definitely. Human killers, they interest me more than perhaps monsters for the sake of monsters. I thought this film does quite well at gradually. I have to give Christopher Abbott his due for the way he slowly
he's a fantastic
turns.
actor, yeah.
The way that he kind of loses that humanity but maintains some of it. I think that's really fascinating acting performance. So yeah, I was happy with that. I was happy with the amount of human interaction there is within the film, about the themes of it. That does go to my taste. So I wasn't actually too put off by then the reveal of the monster. I thought it was quite well done. I like less some of the actions of the actual characters. Some of the things they do seem stupid and nonsensical, and like there's certain moments I think, well, this could have ended if you just did this here. Like there's moments within it I think this is a bit silly, and I think perhaps that was the big thing for me within it, that not everything in the script didn't quite come together cohesively. So I think that's where it goes down for me within it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a good one. I think you should probably give it a watch if you haven't. I think it's a solid, actually, to give it its dues, it's a solid horror film. I think it's a solid one to go on a date to or something. It's just fun.
Yeah,
in a way.
I think seeing it at the cinema is definitely worth it. I mean, to be honest, like studios tend to dump the films they have no confidence with in January, right? That's what you hear about. And especially horror movies. Like January horror movies are infamous for being awful.
Yeah.
But I thought it was done a bit of a disservice, to be honest with you. Yeah, it wasn't amazing, but it certainly could have been released in the summer or something and had maybe a bigger audience.
I think it fits the bill. I think it does what it says on the tin. It's a monster film, and it does monster film things. I don't think it needs to be anything else other than a nice, easy tale like that. So, in that sense, I guess it does hark back to 1941 and the original Wolfman and all the other Universal monsters out in that time period. I reckon it does the job, and it is something you would take your date to, isn't it? It's something that you would go on a date to get closer to each other, and or if you want a night out with a friend. It's fun, it's easy, it's not like going to see a 3-hour drama artistic piece that is Oscar worthy. It's just fun.
It was mercifully short, wasn't it? It was like perfect horror movie length. Yeah,
exactly. And so before we finish, let's get into spoilers. Dave, give me, what's your big spoiler for this one?
Well, I guess the big shocking twist that no one expected, which is that the Wolfman was his father.
What?
Holy shit. You're telling me they showed that close-up of his tattoo for no reason at all?
Yeah, so
okay. I'm making fun of it, but like, there was no other way that it could have really gone. I think I said to you after we saw it that I was a little bit disappointed when they open up that cupboard and you see like the hanging meat in there.
Yeah.
And so Christopher Abbott takes a bite into the meat and like pulls out a tooth, and my brain just didn't register that it was his tooth because it's transforming. I thought that it was like human meat that was hanging under there, and I thought that would have been so cool that that was like kind of one of the symptoms of the transformation was that his dad like spent a while as a cannibal. It's like, oh, that would have been so cool.
That would have been really interesting. Actually.
But alas, he was just losing his teeth.
Well, I was disappointed that he doesn't eat that old meat down there, like on it, and then his wife finds him, and it's like,
well, I mean, they do kind of have that moment when he's eating his own arm.
Oh yeah, I suppose they did, but it's not the same as eating old meat from the 1960s, is it?
Yeah, I guess.
So, what was it? I'm curious to know who you thought was a bit wooden and what happened there with the acting.
Wooden, miscast. I'm not sure. The problem is I had very high hopes for Julia Garner. I've only seen her in Ozark, but of course, like she steals the show in that show, and I was very very excited to see her in something else. And I know that it's the point of the character is that she's distant, and she's a workaholic, and like the arc of her character is, at least at a surface level, like stepping up as a parent, right? And becoming closer to her daughter at the end.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I felt that she was just directed to be very stoic, or I'm not sure. She's such a charismatic actress, at least when she plays Ruth. And I felt that she was a little bit wasted. I'm not sure if you would agree with that or not. But I know that she's so good and has the capacity to be so good and so interesting and so magnetic. And considering it's a cast of like 3 people.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I would have given her more to do, maybe?
Yeah, potentially. I'm not... I mean, from where I am, I don't really think... she's a good support, I think. I think that's the thing. And maybe I think she does quite good at being a distant mother. As you say, I've seen her in a couple of things, Inventing Anna as well. She's pretty good in that too. And obviously her main one is from Ozark, where she is brilliant in that. And as you say, I've not seen her in anything other than the Nespresso adverts with George Clooney. That's the only other place I've seen her.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's miscast for me, but it's a little bit funny that, to me, she still looks really young, actually. I think she's quite...
yes,
she comes across as quite young.
I think, yeah. I think when I saw the trailer, because one of the shots is her and her daughter, and I assumed, like from the trailer, that they were sisters.
Yeah. But that again,
it's true.
Could be us.
No, I mean, of course it is. Of course, I mean, she was in Ozark now already quite a few years ago, right? And she's basically like our age. She's not that young. Well,
we're still young. Hold on, give over.
We're old now. We're old. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I guess Inventing Anna, right, was a lead performance. So, do you think that she does well as a lead, or do you think she's better in a supporting role?
I think she's better as a lead. I think she's quite strong. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In Inventing Anna, I reckon she's good in that. And in Ozark, she is a supporting cast role, but she is a main character. She's like Jessie, isn't she?
Yeah,
she's
I guess she does that. I think like outgrow. Maybe she was originally intended to be a supporting character, but she does, I guess, become. She's arguably like one of the like protagonists of the story, right? So yeah.
So I reckon that she is quite a good, fierce lead actor more than a supporting role. But then you can't be the lead every time.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I just I feel like she could have done way more than she did, and I feel like that's more of a direction thing than certainly it's not her ability. Christopher Abbott was incredible.
He's brilliant.
I'm not overly familiar with him. I know he's quite an indie darling. I think I've only seen him in one other thing, where again he was amazing. That was a film called Possessor from David Cronenberg's son, which I'd really recommend, by the way. Really good. But I know that he's like really into like a lot of indie movies and very, very, very well regarded. And I thought the daughter was excellent as well.
Yeah.
I don't know her name. Let's see.
Matilda Firth. Yeah.
She was brilliant. So yeah, I anticipate great things in her career.
Yeah. I like some of the scenes in it. So when he hears the noise from the other room, you think it's going to be a person or someone huge, and it's just a small spider. I say small, quite a big spider, but it's still just a spider. Yeah, and he's so super sensitive as he's changing. And as I say, that's the standout thing for me is his transformation into this this thing. I wasn't so. I think my least favorite what happened in this film would be either they get in the car, they start the car, change the battery, blah, 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 and then they get chased away. Why don't they just go back to the car? It's still running. It's just got a broken windscreen. So just get out of there in the car. Like, it still goes. So that confused me why they run back to the house. And the other one is near the beginning when they come back and they're moving all the dad stuff out after he's been legally been made deceased. That this guy takes them, and to me he wasn't creepy. I think he's almost meant to come across, this country hick guy is meant to come across as creepy, but to me he doesn't. The hunter, but he doesn't. He just comes across as someone who lives out in the middle of nowhere and he has a gun because he lives out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not sure if the film was trying to make Charlotte Lovell look like a prude who's a city dweller.
Yeah, it did feel like they were kind of setting that up a little bit. Like us versus them kind of thing. Exactly how that would have tied into the Wolfman, I'm not sure, but like that there would be a bit more friction. So to be fair, I was genuinely surprised that they just killed him off like in the next scene.
Yeah.
I didn't actually expect that. I think my biggest issue that we haven't spoken about, I suppose, is the final act overall, which is actually a little unfair because it was perfectly satisfying and in a way was the only way the story could have ended in a satisfying way. But I think that's the problem, is that after a certain point it was a bit predictable, right? That you know that he's transforming and evidently transforming very quickly. You anticipate that he will eventually defeat the father, but since he's transforming anyway, that he's going to have to be dealt with, right?
Yeah.
And probably he's going to turn and try and attack his family, and then the mother is going to be able to step up. But like it's setting up everything that was paid off, but it was somewhat so predictable that once the father was dead, like the Christopher Abbott's father was dead, and then Christopher Abbott like fully turned into the monster. You're like, okay, they're going to kill him. We know it. I don't know exactly how I would change it, because in a way, like it was all so well set up that to do anything else would be just subverting expectations for no reason. The other thing that I guess when you think about the theme as well. So again, it's a bit on the nose, like the toxic father behavior, overprotective. He passes it on to his son, in this case, literally, like by scratching his son and turning him into a monster. I think maybe it would have been better if he could be cured at the end, Christopher Abbott. He kills the father and somehow gets cured. Because otherwise it's a bit of a bummer ending, right? Like that
I don't think whatever you do, it is a bummer that the dad is gone and he was a good dad.
He was a good dad, and basically like, you can't overcome your past, like your toxic traits.
Yeah, good point.
So maybe if I was going to change that ending, I don't know how, you'd have to write some way of doing it, but like have him defeat the father. I think that's symbolically important, right? But I think for him to then become a human again at the end feels like a nicer message to me overall.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree.
They, maybe would have had to give Julia Garner a bit more to do, because at least at the ending, that she's now going to be the sole provider, so she's obviously going to have to change her life and kind of complete her art that way. But I feel like if he could have cured himself somehow, I don't know, make him or make her a scientist. I don't know. Fuck it.
Something different.
It doesn't matter. Like, and she finds a way to fix it, and then he's through love and through his relationship and overcoming their problems, she fixes him. Yeah. and he's able to overcome his toxic past, etc., etc., his toxic trace, and live at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. What would you give it out of 10?
7. I liked it.
I reckon it's a 7.
It was fine. Yeah, I would watch it again, but I wouldn't be in like a massive rush to watch it again, like Invisible
Man. It's a good film. Put on pizza. Yeah, sure. Have a beer with a few mates or something like that. It's just a nice, easy film to watch, like a monster horror should be.
Yeah. To be honest, yeah.
And let us know what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Leave that comment below, and tell us how wrong we are or how right. Yeah, whatever it is. See ya.
Bye.